Buy a home where?
Here in the U.S.
In the U.S.?
Yeah, New Jersey. It's expensive. I know. But, like, everybody...
I ain't gonna lie, so that's something I would recommend people do in this country.
To buy a home?
Yeah.
No, I don't agree with you on that. Sure. You'll have nothing to pass down to your kids.
Right, and from the rest of your life, though, for real.
How?
Property tax.
Okay, property tax is not... Like,
No, my whole thing is, let's say...
I'm not saying go buy a home tomorrow. I'm saying that should be your North Star goal.
Yeah.
And you have to work backwards from that, where if you're broke today, step one is I need a job. There's jobs everywhere. And then simultaneous to getting a job, if you want to earn more money, higher incomes tend to be earned through having a better skill set. So it's up to you to figure out what skill set you want to learn. You can learn skill sets through trade school.
For some reason, they messed up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't follow your footsteps of being successful. They end up not making money.
Mm-hmm.
They can't pay the property taxes. The government take the home from them. Versus buying a home in a different country where when you own it, you own it.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, no government could come and tell you this is not yours no more because you didn't pay this. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back to another episode of Worldly Life Podcast. I know it's been a minute. It's been tough. It's been a long journey. I haven't posted anything in like 2-3 weeks. You know, it's very tough getting guests sometimes. Sometimes when you get guests, sometimes life happens. Like some people get busy, you gotta reschedule and then reschedule. I was supposed to shoot with Mufti Munir again, which you guys all wanted me to bring on, but I guess keep getting postponed. But inshallah, it's gonna get to a point where everything gets consistently recorded and everything. So be patient, continue to subscribe, like, comment. Inshallah, the ball's gonna get rolling again. Just sabr. And I got my guest here with me, none other than Rayhan. He's from Algeria, born and raised in Jersey. Talk to us, man. Welcome. Appreciate you for coming over.
Thank you, man. Of course.
For real.
I appreciate it, 100%.
This is the guy that hooked us up with the lahm.
Yeah.
The meat.
Halal meat.
The halal meat, mashallah. Ain't nothing better. I ain't gonna lie. I've been to so many halal meats. Like you guys.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, the best. Pause.
Yeah, quick pause on that. You always get the best cut of meat too. You get lamb chops, so it's not even the cheap stuff.
My wife be cooking. She be chefing it.
Alhamdulillah.
Yo, and then they got the turkey bacon joint. Not turkey bacon. Lamb bacon.
Oh, lamb bacon. Yep.
I never had that.
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
That's different.
We try and keep it new.
Mashallah, that's tough.
Alhamdulillah.
No, welcome though. But
Thank you.
For the viewers who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background, how you was raised, where you come from, family, everything like that.
Absolutely. So, again, my name is Ryanne Fidel, born and raised here in Orange, New Jersey, but I grew up all my life kind of bouncing around the different neighboring cities, East Orange, Irvington, eventually settled in Livingston. But all I've known growing up were Muslims. And I think that was a blessing that my parents made a special point to achieve. I think you can very easily go live anywhere, but my dad would always make it a priority that wherever we lived, it would be in close proximity to a masjid, so that there wouldn't be any excuse for us to go pray, mainly Fajr, because Fajr is a thing that everybody finds to be difficult, and understandably, it's a test. But if the masjid is right across the street from you or down the block, you could just walk there. That made it very convenient. And that facilitated a lot of our exposure to the masjid and to the Muslim community there. So I've only known Islam and Muslims growing up, which I think a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do. And it got to a point even where I went to college and I was always just still seeking out Muslims. College 99% of the people there are not Muslim. But I was still looking for that 1% because those are the people that I just felt so close and home to. So that's been such a recurring theme throughout my life. So went to school, high school here in Jersey, also went to Islamic school. That's consistent with wanting to constantly seek out the Muslims. And then eventually I made my way to UPenn, where I studied finance and data science.
The school UPenn?
Yeah, the school, like the college
It's an
UPenn.
Ivy League school for those you who don't know.
Yeah.
You gotta have like a 4.0 type GPA to be in those type of schools.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah.
Actually, the person that accepted me into Penn, she was born and raised in East Orange, and when she told me afterwards when she was reviewing my application, she said we have to get another East Orange kid over to UPenn. So maybe it was the 4.0, but maybe it was just her trying to look out for one of her own. So so made my way over to UPenn. And I was just always so fascinated by the world of business. I think business is very approachable by many people. At the end of the day, even a bottle of water, if you are able to somehow convince the other person that this is a more special type of water. I mean, Zamzam water is a good example. It has a lot of barakah, a lot of blessings. You can probably sell that for slightly higher than what you bought it for, and then make a profit. And then if you just do that many, many more times, now you have a business. So it's not rocket science. That's why I really loved it. I was able to understand it very easily. And I'm back now in the community trying to do business here as well, after having gone and explored the world and other types of businesses.
MashaAllah, that's beautiful. You mentioned a few things. One of the things I wanted to touch on is you said your dad tried to help you guys stay in like a Islamic environment where there's a masjid close by. And then you talked about you had Muslim friends where you're not, no disrespect, but anyways, you had non-Muslim friends like that. So you didn't have influences from the Western culture, so to speak, right? Me, differently. I was total different. Yes, I grew up in an Islamic background. My whole family is Muslim, alhamdulillah. But I grew up with a bunch of non-Muslims. So you could see the type of influence it had on me and my peers growing up. We used to tend to do certain things that they'll do that we don't normally supposed to do as Muslims. Alhamdulillah, we came away, we left that lifestyle, and alhamdulillah, but I just wanted to raise the importance of having like a Islamic foundation growing up. You don't, some temptations, like you got Muslim friends that tell you, nah, don't do this. Stay away from here. Don't go here, bro. Nah, yo, bro, you slack, you gotta pick up on the prayer, bro. Type joint. You get what I'm saying? So you grew up in that. And then you also talked about Islamic school. How was that? How was it going?
Islamic school, during Islamic school, it felt like that was the only way to do schooling, where every single day you had your Quran and your Arabic classes and Islamic studies classes. And only much later on, when people would talk to me about their public school experiences, I was always so shocked about what public school culture was like in general. Like very liberal. Everybody just kind of did whatever they wanted. Whereas in Islamic school, there was rigidity and there was structure and there was curriculum. We all were on one path and we were all just going down that path. And I went to Islamic school from pre-K all the way till graduating from high school, 12th grade. So it's all I've known. And in hindsight, as much as sometimes it was difficult, for example, doing Arabic every single day, that gets tiring.
So you learned Arabic?
I learned most of my Arabic in schooling. I learned a lot of Arabic as well at home because I'm from Algeria and we have a certain dialect of Arabic, the same way Egyptians speak a certain way of Arabic, Saudi Arabians speak a different way of Arabic, Algerians have their own dialect, but almost all of my Fusha was taught to me in the Islamic school. And I was learning things such as grammar, such as how to do tafsir on surahs like Surah Yasin, Surah Al-Kahf. So, and that's something that you can only learn in Islamic school, or if you go to public school, maybe you take the weekends to go to Sunday or Saturday school to try and get the extra learning in. But it just made me have so much more appreciation, because if I had it, I would not be able to read the Quran as fluently and with as much articulation as I'm able to now. And I also would probably would read it and not know at all what I'm reading. I'm just reading for the sake of reading. And I think there are levels to it. You don't have to immediately jump to reading and knowing exactly every single word that you read, right? Your intentions are what count. So if you're reading and you're reading and you don't really know what's going on, that's fine. Tafsir exists for a reason. But Islamic school is really what helped bridge that gap between not just learning Islam, but me understanding what it is that I was learning and why it was important. Like it's more important to learn the why as opposed to just the how or the what. For example, like, why do we pray? Why do we do X, Y, and Z? These are things that come to you naturally as a Muslim.
Okay.
And Islam has reasons and logic to all these things.
Interesting. So you grew up learning Islam.
Yep.
You went to Islamic school. I wanted to ask you, have you ever like looked at another religion and be like, yo, alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim. Like, yo, the Islam make that much more sense and everything. So many people from the outside looking in, they're going to look at you like, you're only a Muslim because you grew up in a Muslim household.
Yeah.
You did everything as a Muslim.
Yep.
You never seen what was out on the other religions and everything like that. So how would you explain to people why you a Muslim?
I think I'll preface it with I don't know too much about many other religions. The main one that comes to mind is Christianity.
Yes.
And whenever I see Christianity, I notice that there are a lot of denominations. So you have your Presbyterians, you have your Baptist churches, your Episcopalian churches. And that always struck me as all these denominations taking the core tenets of Christianity and then just coming up with their own spin on it. And that might not be true. I'm just going off of what I interpreted. Right. But it would be as if we had different masjids or mosques who all followed like a certain flavor of Islam. And that if you went to one masjid versus another, you're going to get a completely different experience, which is the case now if you went to a Baptist church versus a Presbyterian church. So that for me was a little bit odd. It would be like if I went to another masjid and then just completely prayed in a completely different way. I'd be like, is this really the same religion? What's going on here? So I just love that there was consistency, because if there's consistency, that means that you have access to that many more people from your religion, because you can really go to any masjid, any Muslim community, and you'll probably follow the religion and practice your salawat and do all your siyam and all that in the same way that they do. So there's no barrier. There's no like, you're different than me. It's you versus them. It's really that all of us are together, and we are social human beings. That is constantly what we seek, and we are not meant to live in isolation. And I think having those common tenets across Islam, the 5 pillars, Arkan al-Iman, Arkan al-Islam, that's what helps us congregate and really be one united force.
MashaAllah.
Yeah.
That's better way of putting it like that.
Yeah.
Islam, there's no race,
No.
You bounded together by faith.
Yep.
By Islam, la ilaha illallah.
Yep.
Like you said, there's many denominations. At least Islam, you have the core tenements. Like if you don't follow these core tenements, you outside.
It's very clear.
It's clear.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? Even though you may have different views, different schools of thoughts.
Yep.
This all come down in one umbrella at the end of the day.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying?
I'll say one thing. I think we could do better as a Muslim community, because a lot of my friends a lot of my friends later on in life were more Arab friends. So people from Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, and they all grew up in predominantly Arab communities. I also have some Pakistani and Indian friends, and they had their own Desi communities and Masjid communities. And I would tell them, I would always talk about my experience growing up in a predominantly African-American Muslim community and West African Muslim community. And it was always a little bit of a shock to them. There was almost like, wait, those communities exist? I would also tell them about Guyanese Muslim communities, and half the time people are asking me where Guyana is as a country, or like, well, how is that even Muslim? So I think we could do better in terms of knowing that Muslims really do come in every shape and form, every race, and that just because Islam originated in Arabia, that doesn't mean it didn't spread to every part of the globe. You have Indonesian Muslims, Malaysian Muslims. You have the Muslims that came from West Africa over to the United States and were some of the first Muslims here in America.
Facts.
Those are the people, and I feel so proud whenever I do mention that I came from that community, because to me it's the only thing I've ever known. And when other people don't know about it, it makes it that much more apparent that I grew up with something special and unique that not many people experienced, and it was such a great experience for me, so I feel lucky in that sense.
It's amazing that you brought that up, because I remember I was playing basketball overseas. I went to the Western Union and sent money back home, and a guy couldn't believe my name was Mohammed Faisal Ahmed.
Yep.
It's like, what? Like, the guy see the picture, see my name, he just couldn't fathom the fact that my name was Mohammed Faisal Ahmed. he was bugging like, yo, this is an Iraqi name. He said it was an Iraqi name. I said, it's a Muslim name. I'm a Muslim.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't believe it. So
Yep.
that's a very good point you brought up, though. There's a lot of ignorance inside the Islamic community. You see it.
Yeah, and that's what it is really. A lot of people sometimes they jump the gun and they say, oh, it's racism. I don't think it's racism at all. I think it's racism when you start to look down upon your Muslim brothers and sisters. I think to what you just mentioned, it's really just ignorance, and we have a duty to educate them and fill in that gap for them and say, hey, there's this whole other world of Muslims, and then bring them up to speed.
For sure. Talking about the racism part, because you got a lot of our people who says that Arab are racist.
Yeah.
They've been treated such and such and everything like that. You see, it's relative because everyone has their own experience.
Yep.
Me, when I go, I don't experience that.
Yeah.
And everything. But sometimes you manifest what you think already. You feel me? Like, if you feel like this person is going, you're gonna look for something, you're gonna find it.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying?
Confirmation bias.
So sometimes it'd be a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because I heard people talking and they was like, yo, this is something like, bro, where am I at when y'all experiencing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is it you guys are feeling like inferior to these people? Yeah, y'all feel like they don't like y'all.
So you project a
So
little bit.
you already have this preconceived notion.
Yep.
He did the same thing with this other person from this race. You get what I'm saying? So there's a lot of sensitivity in that area within blacks, Arabs, and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying
that it doesn't happen. Yeah, you
have
have some people.
racism. Like, don't get me wrong and everything like that. But I just feel like we have also mindset in our head that makes you like you looking for that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
When you go about your business, you ain't gonna find it.
Inshallah. Yep.
For the most part, they're most hospital people, Muslims in general. They're supposed to be hospital to one another.
Yep.
Muslim, aqua Muslim.
Yep. I mean, I felt it today. Like, alhamdulillah, I feel so at home. I feel so comfortable.
For coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since I met you in the store, I always liked your vibe. You're very outspoken. You speak to everybody.
Yep.
I like that about you. Mashallah,
tabarakallah. I do that for reasons. Like, a lot of people think that that's just my demeanor. It's like my natural demeanor.
Yeah.
But I think I'm happy to discuss it if you want me to.
Of course.
Like that. I think Muslims have, Muslim business owners and entrepreneurs, for some reason, feel as if they are entitled to customers and to business and to money. They think just because I open up a business, everybody that walks in through my doors, like it's a privilege for them that they get to walk in through my doors and buy something from me or buy a service off of me.
Yeah.
When really it's the opposite way around. I am nothing without the satisfaction of my customer and then coming back every single time. And sometimes Muslims don't think that way, and that reflects in their attitude towards their customers, where they feel as if it's a burden for them to provide good quality service, and they just want to provide the thing and then move on and like get out of my face. They don't say these things explicitly, but you can glean it from their attitude and from their demeanor.
Yeah.
So I try to make it a special point that whoever does walk into our halal meat market, to welcome them. Of course, I have my days where I'm tired or I'm just feeling off a little bit, but for the most part, I try to welcome everybody.
That's something customers naturally will appreciate.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They'll actually look forward to coming back.
Yeah.
That actually could also help your business.
Yep.
Just, like, this guy's
it's so
very
basic.
nice to me. Yeah,
it's so obvious. It's not even rocket science. I didn't come up with this. I just copy what other people do, and alhamdulillah, it works out.
Alhamdulillah. Before we even get into the business, the marketing, entrepreneurship, I'm going to talk back on the last topic. Okay, blacks.
Yes.
Do you guys have stereotypes on black people? Like, oh, not that person look like crazy and come clean.
No, I mean, I personally don't, because again, that's I'm so used to it. I've seen it all.
Yeah.
I think sometimes some things that I've heard from people that I've met in the past, sometimes people think that African American Muslims don't know how to read Quran as well, or with as good of a qira'ah or a tilawa as like Arab Muslims, because they assume that given that's not their native tongue, Arabic, that because they learn it, it'll be like a secondary language for them, or it won't come as naturally. And that's not the case very frequently. Like so many, I know a lot of Somali Muslims who have excellent qira'ah, like a lot of shuyukh, African American shuyukh who have beautiful qira'ah. So people always expect something else, but that's not the case. People also I think people just expect there to be like a lesser quality to like the knowledge that's being shared. But what I've actually seen across, let's say khutbahs, talks by shuyukh, I think a lot of some of the more famous shuyukh, they tend to give these khutbahs and to communicate these learnings. They talk a lot about theory. They talk a lot about, this is what the Quran says, and we should strive to do X, Y, and Z. And those are all great things, but they're super high level concepts that's very difficult for the average person, average Joe, to implement some of those things in their lives. Whereas I think for a lot of the shuyukh in the black community, they're so grounded with reality because they've lived through a lot of the trauma with racism. They've just been through it all. Their nasiha and their wisdom tends to be more connected to things that you can actually do walking right out the khutbah. And I think a lot of people don't think that. They think, this is just random advice. It's not. This is actually advice that you can do immediately, and it'll probably improve your life. And it's all grounded in both reality and Islamic values.
MashaAllah. You hit home run on that, because you could see the difference when a person live here and go study, how his ruling is going to be different from somebody who lived in the Middle East or Africa or any part of the country, different countries. It will be much different because it's a different lifestyle.
They're all just reciting from a book.
No.
Which is not bad, again, right? There are different flavors, but this is just what I tend to prefer.
Yes, for sure. Anyways, I was watching the podcast you was on with the brothers, shout out to them, and it was a very interesting podcast, and you was talking about your business with Lyft. I wanted to know how did you get into business and everything?
Yeah.
So walk us to that journey, family.
Absolutely. So when I was in college, I was constantly thinking about ideas and new businesses to start, especially businesses to start with my friends, because starting a business is fun, but I think something that's even more fun is to do it with people that you enjoy working with and that you love to spend time around, because you both, whoever it is that you're working with, you tend to encourage one another. There's so much accountability, because it feels pretty horrible where after a week you show up to your friend and you're like, but what you get done? They got a lot done. You got absolutely nothing done. That imbalance tends to balance itself out of shame and out of respect for your peer who's putting an effort and you're not.
No.
So I really was constantly looking for those ideas to hop on. The idea that came to mind was whenever you're driving on 280 or Parkway or whatever, you see the billboards, right?
Yeah.
All right. Sometimes you'll see billboards that mean nothing to you. Sometimes it'll be about personal injury lawyers, or it'll be about like dial 311 for help with your water payments or something like that. It's just completely random stuff. There are companies and organizations that pay thousands, tens of thousands even of dollars to put their ad up there, but they don't control who's actually seeing that ad. So they're kind of they just say, we're going to put up this billboard, and whoever sees it, even if they're not the people that we want to target. Like the personal injury lawyers are looking for people who've experienced personal injury.
Yeah.
So we called those types of ads, the ones that you see on bus stops, on the buses themselves, the ones on billboards, we call that outdoor advertising. And we're all very familiar with digital advertising, the ads that you get on Instagram, on TikTok. Those ads tend to know so much more about you as a person that whenever you do see them, you're like, oh, this is super relevant to me. Like I was actually just searching up frying pans yesterday on Google search, and somehow it appeared on my TikTok feed. We're not going to talk about how they're able to do that, but at least the ads that you're shown make sense. And whoever's spending money on that ad can be confident that when you see that ad, their money is being well spent. They're not like spending $1 but only getting 10 cents worth of it. They're spending $1 and probably getting $1.10 worth of that ad spend. So we wanted to take all the bad things about the outdoor advertising world and all the good things about the digital advertising world and try and find a harmony between the two. And we eventually landed upon putting LED screens.
Yeah.
So LED screens on top of Uber or Lyft cars.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. Very simple. If you've ever seen a taxi in New York City, just imagine whatever's on top of the taxi, instead of it being like a piece of paper, it's instead a screen, like a computer screen. And instead of a taxi, we put on Uber and Lyft cars. And the thesis behind that was, let's use Newark and Newark and like Hoboken as an example. All right. Very obvious things about them. Newark tends to be a little less affluent. Hoboken is more affluent. You have a lot of people who commute to New York from there. Two very different consumer demographics.
Yeah.
When let's say we have a car, like an Uber or Lyft car, and it has a screen on top of it. That screen has a GPS inside of it, where when that car enters into the radius or the perimeter of Newark, our database says, oh, it's in Newark. Let's go through all the different advertisers that want to show their ad in Newark because they want to target people who live in Newark. Maybe it's like government assistance stuff because we have a lot of poor income families in Newark, or like there's a lot of development happening in Newark. Maybe it's advertising about new rent or new apartment buildings that are popping up, get 2 months off rent for free. So the GPS data figures out that you're in Newark, checks the database and looks for all the advertisers that want to advertise in Newark, and then the screen changes to that ad. So now that person that's advertising doesn't just buy a billboard and hope for the best. Now they're actually spending money, and they know that their ad that they want to show to Newark residents is being shown to Newark residents. And when the driver picks up a passenger that wants to go to Hoboken, the moment the car gets into Hoboken, the GPS is like, oh, we're in Hoboken, change the ad. And it becomes something more relevant to the type of person that lives in Hoboken.
This is something you and your friends came up with.
Yeah. So, I tell this to people all the time. People think entrepreneurship is Facebook and Apple and all these really big companies that are very hard to start. Sometimes it's very basic ideas. It's 10% idea and 90% execution, because we could have come up with the idea and spent years just talking about the idea. And we're like, yo, it would have been crazy if we had done that, yada, yada. But what made us different and special is that the moment we had the idea, we immediately thought about what's the first thing that we need to do. And for us, that was, we just need to go buy a screen. We have the car. We all have licenses. We just have to buy the screen. So we went on Alibaba.com, we searched up advertising screen. We picked the first one, came in a month. We installed it on one of our cars. We had like super janky setup. It probably could have caught on fire immediately. This was 2018. Okay. Yeah, 6 years ago. Okay. 2018. But that was step one. We got to actually see what the monitor looked like, and we drove it around ourselves. We played around with the whole database feature of switching ads depending on which zip code you're in or which city you're in, and it worked. And after some tweaking, we said, okay, now we feel comfortable giving it to a real driver. So we had to go and find a real driver. And then one driver turned into 5 drivers, turned into 10 drivers. And over time, we needed more money. And so it's a whole other conversation to, like, where do you get the money from? Thankfully, we started this in college, so we had some support from our university. Yeah. And that's the benefit of going, alhamdulillah, to a good university, is that if it's a good university, they want to spend money on you. They want to help nourish a lot of these infant ideas and help them grow into something, because they know where are you going to get the money as a student? Like, you're not gonna find $10,000 on the street.
University helped you fund.
Yeah, they helped fund it up to like $50,000. So it was just a matter of applying to things. And this is not just good university. Like, it's a lot of universities, the resource exists in a lot of places, like even community colleges it exists. It's just a matter of figuring it, like just applying, figuring out who to talk to. And so we used a lot of that money to bootstrap the business, get it to a point where we said, oh, we like where this is going, but we need investors now, because it wasn't making money. A lot of these things don't make money for the first year or two. So we had to raise some money from investors, and then we used some of that money to do more stuff.
Okay. How did it do after like the third year from that particular business?
It even get to here. Within 8 months, we had expanded to a few cities: Chicago, New York City, Philadelphia. And within month 8, we thought we were going to raise more money from investors so we can continue growing, maybe expand to the West Coast and different cities there. But on month 8, the rideshare company Lyft had approached us, and initially they wanted to do a partnership with us.
Yeah.
They just wanted to just dip their toes in the water, see what this business was like, because it was so related to their business. Like, we were using Lyft drivers as a way, we were asking Lyft drivers to put this on top of their car. And so Lyft was like, we feel like we should get a cut of that. Even though there was they didn't have any legal claim to getting a cut of that. But they said, well, we're the ones that employ the drivers. So if we feel like we can convince them better than you could convince them to put these things on top of their car. And if we just own the screens, we could get the money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that partnership turned slowly into they just wanted to acquire the company as a whole. They said, you know what, we want to do this. We're not going to spend a year trying to come up with it ourselves. So we're going to buy you guys. And once we buy you guys, we just want you guys to do it, but under the Lyft banner, so that any revenue that you guys come up with is now like part of Lyft. We give you more resources, so you don't have to go raise money from investors. You're just pulling from the Lyft bank account to go and buy more screens, pay drivers, hire more engineers, just to grow overall. So yeah, that happened on month 8, and I worked there for 3 years, just continuing to build the idea.
That's what's up. That's dope. And then from there, you branched off to other avenues, ventures.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You learn so much from most people are supposed to fail the first time. Alhamdulillah. I got lucky, and by the grace of Allah, came out unscathed. But then afterwards, I tried different things. I remember at one point, I tried to I wanted to build some smart tech pool equipment.
Yeah.
So people had managing a pool and taking care. I don't even have a pool, but I was just talking to people, and they would tell me owning a pool sucks. And I would ask them about what their problems were. And that's really the core of entrepreneurship. It's all about solving a problem, whether it's with a product or a service, right? You can you can create like a more efficient spoon that solves a problem. If you need junk removed, there are junk removal services. That's solving a problem. So that's really all business is. It's also just solving a problem. So I was asking these people to tell me their problems so that I can come up with a solution to address that problem. But it just ended up being really difficult. Not all ideas are created equally. Some are way more difficult to get off the ground than others. This one just proved to be a little bit hard, and I spent some months at it, and it didn't end up working out. And I also think that's something that I think Muslim business owners need to learn as well, is they need to learn how to cut their losses early, because I think sometimes Muslims can get so emotionally tied to a business or an idea that they're starting, and it might have started off as a good idea, but ideas come and go. People start businesses all the time, but people are just not reacting to it or responding to it well. You don't spend more money, or you don't convince yourself that like, oh, no, the customers are wrong, right? This is a good product. They should love it. You're not that guy. And you're going to spend more money, waste more money. You're going to waste time. You might even have a family that you should be supporting, where you should just cut your losses. And maybe the solution is go get a salary job, right? Not everybody needs to be a business owner. Right. If you mess up a few times, maybe it's just not for you, and you're going to continue the rest of your life just failing, and you're not learning from your failures and doing better the next time.
Do you feel like after like a lot of Muslim business owners, after they fail in one thing, they just stop altogether?
I don't think they should stop altogether. I think
I'm asking, do you think they do that?
Oh, do I think they do? I don't know. I don't know that many, or I don't know. I know a lot of Muslim business owners, but I don't know about what their past experiences were. So I don't know if what they're currently doing is their second time, or even their first time, or maybe their 10th time. I don't really usually ask, but I don't think people should give up after the first time. But I think it's very scarring and traumatizing when you do fail the first time. You almost never want to do it again, especially when people depend on you. I think I got lucky because I did it at such an early age. So even if I did fail, I still, alhamdulillah, had a job that I can go back to. A lot of people do this later on in their lives where they have people that depend on them, And at that point of their lives, you can't be taking big risks like that.
Yes, gotcha. Another thing I wanted to touch on with you is how did y'all get into the halal meat market?
Yeah. Oh, this one's a crazy story. My dad first immigrated here in 1997, I believe. And the first place he came to was East Orange. And at first, I think he was...
Where he migrated from?
From Algeria.
Okay.
And he came here because we had a family member here, and he was coming just to check up on them, because America to us was a foreign country. Prior to that family being here, no one in my lineage had ever been to America. It was like completely Algeria.
Wow.
Like hundreds of years back.
Okay.
So somebody finally said in 1995, let's go give America a try. My dad followed along, and they were first in the restaurant industry, and then they noticed that the restaurant industry is pretty hard. So they thought, okay, well, where does the restaurant industry get a lot of the things that they need in order to make the food? And they thought, oh, meat. What doesn't exist too much around here? Halal meat. Even though there was a very large and growing Muslim population, there weren't as many places offering halal meat.
Yeah.
And that was solving a problem, right? People are like, well, I want to eat halal meat, but I can't find it. So I'm forced to go eat non-halal meat. So they opened up a little shop, same place where it is today, right now. And they just started selling. They started off with chicken. They did chicken really well. Then they expanded into turkey. They did turkey really, really well. And they just kept adding more and more and more. And there was a period of time where it was closed down because my dad had gone off to go try and do other businesses. But then after some while, he came back and reopened it in around 2010.
Yeah.
And I was in like elementary school at that point. So I wasn't even in the picture. I just knew that that's what he did to support us growing up. But I think with the older generation of Muslims and immigrant Muslims, I'm going to talk about like immigrant Muslims specifically because that's what I know mostly of. When they get here, they're not trying to become like multimillionaires. They're just trying to get by. They're just trying to put food on the table. They're trying to make rent. So they're not trying to run a business. They're trying to just get the business to survive so they can continue to provide income for the family. So they tend to run the business not very efficiently, right? They're running around all over the place. They can't hire people. So the business barely gets by. But then at some point, but the core business itself could be really lucrative if you did it correctly. If you hired people, if you use technology, if you go digital, et cetera, et cetera. So when I had sold the company and I worked at Lyft for a few years and I was trying and dabbling in other businesses.
You don't mind me.
Yeah.
How much did you sell the company for?
Oh, I can't say that. Yeah, you tried. I can't mention that.
Everybody gonna be after me after this.
I wish. A few people know it here and there, like amongst my friends, but
okay, got you.
Yeah,
no problem.
I tend not to share because now it's like people view that.
Yeah, it's absolutely bad.
Yeah. So after I had failed at a few more things, I thought to myself, okay, I'm a little bit tired of trying to make something out of thin air.
No.
I want to instead go and find a very boring, quote unquote, business that young people wouldn't find very interesting. So that was something like halal meat, right? I could have started a junk removal business. I could have opened up a laundromat. These are things that 22, 23, 24-year-olds are like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want something cool. I want something like hot. I want something that when I tell my friends about it, they're like, dang, bro, like you work there. That's crazy. I don't care what people think about.
So you had like a mentality like that since you were younger, 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
You see, that it's much different from someone like me. I had no plans of trying to be an entrepreneur, business, till later on in my 30.
Yeah.
That's when I'm trying to like expand business ideas. But at that time, all I knew was just basketball.
Yeah.
We didn't work.
But that's work in of itself. Being a professional basketball player, that's not.
Yes, it is. But at the same time, if I knew what I know now, I would have worked more. I would have tried to get into networking, meeting people, to be able to set myself up in the future, gaining the knowledge, experience, to be able to navigate and move how I want to move. You feel me? I didn't do none of that till later. So I seen the difficulty I
Yeah.
went through after I stopped playing ball.
Yep.
So you see somebody you started at an early age.
Yeah.
And then you've been, like you said, you took some of your losses early.
Mm-hmm.
And now you mitigate, you don't take as much losses because you got the experience now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you limit.
I'd say a lot of what I had learned was through reading,
Yes.
because I also didn't have many people to go off of as role models.
Okay.
So I don't know why I initially gravitated towards books as a way for me to just learn, but role models very often come in the form of people that are spoken about in books, who are explaining about their pathways in life, what they do, how they got there.
What are some of the books?
How to win friends and influence people.
Yes.
Is a good one. Ray Dalio put out a lot of books that just generally talk about like how the world works. I think the name of the book is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
I believe that one's a really famous one. That one I recommend everybody read it. So these are all things that gave me more information about like what it is that I should be focusing on and what I should be concentrating my time on. So that's the only reason why at like an earlier age, I had considered that. Also, at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of things matter, but at the end of the day, it's not about how people think about you or your reputation matters, of course, but at the end of the day, it's like how much money is like, in the account.
Yes.
Right. You can be bringing in like $1 million, but your expenses are also $1 million.
Yeah.
So you really make nothing. So it's all about what you keep. And that's why I'm very conscious about spending as well. I think that's Muslims also have a really a hard time with that, like spending money on OD cars. Like you don't need all that. I drive a Prius. I came here in a Prius. Very
crazy?
Very straightforward.
You know what I noticed? A lot of people who have money don't tend to show it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tend to show it. Like for example, look what you're wearing and everything.
Yeah, I think
For example, somebody from my demographic, where we come from, because we grew up through poverty, we grew up through welfare, going to projects, living in that circumstance condition. As soon as we get money, we want to show it off. And then we tend to spend more than we actually make.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We spend more than we afford.
Mm-hmm.
So we end up losing that money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of people from my demographic, even other different demographic. I'm talking specifically about where we come from.
Yep.
Can you talk to us about how you manage your money, balance and everything?
Yeah.
How you do that?
Absolutely.
These type of conversations that need to be had.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. And I believe I like to manage my money like very practically. Yeah. Like it's not even rocket science. To your point of people tend to spend more than they make, I think the moment where you're broke, when you're at your lowest point, that's a scar.
Yeah.
That's a horrible position to be in, and I've been near that position a few times.
Okay.
And when you're in that position, you never want to be in that position again. It's like when you're super healthy 364 days of the year, and then one day of the year, your nose gets a little bit stuffy, and you just wish that you were healthy. Like you don't want anything else. You just want to be able to sleep and not have a stuffy nose. So many people take health for granted, and people also take having money for granted. But the moment you're broke, the whole world falls apart. In my case specifically, I think one of the best ways to manage your money are, a lot of people have a checking account. A lot of people have a savings account. A lot of people have a credit card account. But they don't check these accounts frequently, right? If you're not checking your transactions on a daily basis, then you kind of really don't care where your money, like how it's going in and out. Every single day, twice a day, and throughout the day, I make sure I have an app that puts everything together, and I just scroll, and I look at every single transaction. This money came in. Okay, where did it come in from? Who did it come in from? Okay, this person paid their bill. Good.
What's the name of this app?
It's called Copilot.
Copilot.
Yeah, you can do a free trial. It's so good. Yes. You connect literally all your accounts, even in your investment accounts, and it makes it so easy to check.
Copilot, yeah. Go check it out.
Yep. And then I check my expenses, and I think that's where it can get lost very easily. A lot of people have subscriptions that they don't know about, but getting taken out every single month. A lot of times, like family members are spending money, your things, and you don't know why. Or I'm not saying like go interrogate them, but like why they're spending this much on Amazon. Okay. But everybody should be on the same page. If this is not just your money, but like kind of everybody's money, everybody should be using it with the same type of wisdom. Nobody should ever feel as if, oh, I have access to this pool of money, let me just do whatever the heck I want with it. So I go through all the expenses. If somebody has a suspiciously large expense, there's a conversation around, was it necessary? Was this the best way you could have spent your money? So I focus a lot on bringing in more money every single day, but I spend just as much time making sure that not a single dollar more is leaving the door than should be. So that app is really helpful. That's one. That's the first thing that I come up with. I feel as if people always try and go crazy, and they're like, yeah, I should be opening up this account, and they just try and go crazy with their finances. They think it's like super complicated math.
Let me go get all these credit cards.
Yeah, exactly. Just start off with knowing what's going in, what's going out. That already is a habit and routine that most people are not going to do. So my recommendation to everybody, all my friends as well, I tell them to do this. Just download an app like this. You don't even have to download this app. I'm just begging you, just open up your like Bank of America checking account, your PNC account, and just check what's going on. And over time, you'll start to realize that some expenses are not necessary. That, wait, I'm not watching Netflix as much as I do. Like, why am I still paying $12.99 a month for it?
That is so true, because even me sometimes, when I check my bank account like consistently, I'm more cognizant of it. I'm like, oh snap, I know I spent this much, now I gotta hold it down.
Yeah,
I can't spend this much money until this money come to my account.
Yep.
So definitely, that's a very good advice and everything, because sometimes when I go a couple of days without missing, I spend more than I would normally spend if I was to check my account.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I would never went and brought this food if I knew this was much was in my account.
Yep.
So that's definitely a huge factor. So that's definitely a great benefit.
And even if you make the mistake of spending that money, if you know, like to your point, if you are able to catch that mistake, it's more likely that you will not make that mistake the next week.
That's
like
true.
Great. Like, you know, we make mistakes all the time. I made a mistake this week. You just need to make sure you don't make this mistake recurringly, because that's when it snowballs. And next thing you know, eating out and the expense about that is like a $2,000, $3,000 bill every single month, and that's insane.
That's true. Okay. And another thing I wanted to cover with you, being the fact that you and I feel, do you feel because you know financial freedom, it's big in any culture, any way of life. You need money, even in Islam, you need money, everything, and that's something that's recommended. You get to do more acts of worship when you have more money, and everything. So yes, you have your reward when you pour, you patient upon it, but there lies no doubt when you have money and you also spending it in the cause of Allah the right way, you get to do more than a person who doesn't have it. You get what I'm saying? So it's actually encouraged for Muslims to have money and everything like that. It's not something that many people think that, oh, you got this money.
Yeah, should not be looked down upon.
Yes, that's something, and then you're able to do more. You have access to more resources, but many Muslims are just, like you said earlier, just content with I just want to just be able to survive. That's it.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good mindset to have, especially in this generation today? The reason why I'm asking is because I know many people, they get sold off for something very little just because they don't have it.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff, you avoid doing haram situations, putting yourself in haram situations when you get what I'm saying?
I think, I mean, number one, to each their own. It's hard for me to speak about like what other people should do, but I think maybe the one obligation that every Muslim should have is life. If you have a constant stream of expenses that basically force you to be on the hamster wheel 24/7, that's probably not good for you or your family. And the point that I'm trying to get at is, if you want to live that way where you don't want to think about money and you want to live your life on more basic means or through more basic means, at bare minimum, your objective should be to buy a home, because one of the most burdensome recurring expenses is rent.
Hold on, buy a home where?
Here in the U.S.
In the U.S.?
Yeah, New Jersey. It's expensive. I know. But, like, everybody...
I ain't gonna lie, that's something I would recommend people do in this country.
To buy a home?
Yeah.
No, I don't agree with you on that. I think...
Go ahead. I can tell you why I disagree with you on that one.
For the rest... I mean, if you want to rent for the rest of your life, sure. You'll have nothing to pass down to your kids.
You low-key renting for the rest of your life, though, for real.
How?
Property tax.
Okay, property tax is not... Like,
no, my whole thing is, let's say you buy a home for your children, right?
Yes.
And let's say you pass on, now the children have home. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, your kids don't have, like, for some reason, they messed up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't follow your footsteps of being successful. They end up not making money.
Mm-hmm.
They can't pay the property taxes. The government take the home from them. Versus buying a home in a different country where when you own it, you own it.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, no government could come and tell you this is not yours no more because you didn't pay this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
That's my whole thing. And on top of that, the interest payments that you got to make on a home, many people can't afford. Like you said, if you can afford it, to all each his own. But to mass majority, that's a dream that many people go down and they end up in debt for the rest of their life. So that's the reason why I wouldn't.
I mean, if it's within your means to leave this country and go buy a home and live somewhere else,
Yes.
that sounds like a good strategy too. Like, a home in America is no better than a home in Egypt or in Saudi Arabia. But I think we have to be honest with ourselves. Most people are not going to just pack up their bags and leave when every single one of their family members lives here in the United States. So on paper, yes, owning a home elsewhere is, like, quote unquote, the safer move. But I think if you manage your finances, I'm not like there are.
Let me actually, no,
You go ahead.
real quick.
Yeah.
Most of us that live in the United States have family across overseas.
Okay.
And like that, because most of us are like, we second generation Americans. Our family migrated. For example, I'm from Ghana.
Yeah.
I have family. I have a lot of family. Even though most of I can't even say that. Most of my family is in Ghana, but I have a lot of family here in the U.S. too, and I grew up over here and everything like that. It's not even just getting up and going to live. It's also getting up and trying to go live a more copacetic lifestyle, a lifestyle that is not hypersexualized.
Yeah.
Everything like that. So one thing is owning a home, but also being in an environment that's not going to put harm to your future kids and everything like that. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing I play into perspective when I talk about this situation. It's not just about owning a home, it's about that environment too. Personally, I wouldn't want my kids growing up in an environment like this, at least for sure not putting them in the public schools. This was why you guys, your parents put you in Islamic school and everything, because they see the effects and everything. Personally, I could tell you, I'm probably still affected from going to public school now because of what I grew up, some of the things I faced growing up. So that's not something I want to see my kids go through. You feel me? That's why I disagree with that point. But to your point, let's say the people who don't have family overseas, then that's something that's going to be very tough for them to do. But I'm saying,
well, it's tough for them to do because they're going off of their current circumstances.
Yes.
I'm not saying go buy a home tomorrow. I'm saying that should be your North Star goal.
Yeah.
And you have to work backwards from that, where if you're broke today, step one is, I need a job. There's jobs everywhere. And then simultaneous to getting a job, if you want to earn more money, higher incomes tend to be earned through having a better skill set. So it's up to you to figure out what skill set you want to learn. You can learn skill sets through trade school. You can learn skill sets through education. And I think that's where a lot of people trip up. People are not going down those paths of trying to upskill themselves and learn new things. And the next thing you know, you're making more per hour. Next thing you know, you have a salary. And then if you just continue to have that mindset of I want to maximize my income over in time, next thing you know, you are in a position to put a down payment on a home. Interest will always be a factor, but it's either that or you just continue paying like between $1,000 or $1,500 every single month until you die.
Personally, I rather that. Because interest in Nadine is
okay. Interest, by the way, I don't agree with like I don't agree with getting a mortgage with interest. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna try and go down that route, maybe figure out finding an Islamic mortgage. I'm of the opinion of, which makes it even more. I'm of the opinion of buying houses in all cash, which is even more difficult to do.
No, but honestly, I would prefer that.
But if it takes you 20, 30 years,
I think that's way better than buy a crib cash.
If it's, and I'm not saying do this in 5 years. If this takes you, if your mentality is I want to live on super basic means, and it takes you 20 years, 30 years to buy a home, you should save towards that. But if you on day one you're like I never want to buy a home, that there's no good. I don't know where's the reason. You're gonna pass down nothing to your kids. You're gonna pay rent for the rest of your life. It's why it just doesn't make sense to me.
It's a very interesting discussion. Yeah. Comment what you guys feel, what you guys think.
I'm gonna fight y'all in the comments.
What side y'all on? But this is very interesting, and these are discussions that need to be had, so I'm glad you came on. Mm-hmm. Lastly, what are some of the advice you would give to Muslims growing up, trying to get into the field, pretty much?
Yeah. I think, first and foremost, if you have the opportunity to go to college, you should go to college. Mm-hmm. When people say, everybody has their own circumstance, of course, but when people say, oh, you don't need college, you can do X, Y, Z, that might be true, but statistically, you're probably not that person that can just do away with college and do your own thing. Having a college degree is a very good thing to fall back on, and a lot of the higher income jobs require college degrees, and people might say, "Oh no, that's not a thing nowadays." Blah blah. Just get the college degree.
One may say, okay, nowadays college degree don't really hold no value because it's like equivalent to a high school diploma.
I don't.
So that what you say?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I mean, when you go to college, you're learning practical things. If you study the right thing.
Do you think that depending on the field you in?
Yeah. Don't study like psychology and expect to come out with like $100,000 job.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna go to college, make it worth going to college. Mm-hmm. Try and study engineering, chemistry. These are difficult subjects. So you have to go in and you have to want to learn and you have to want to put in some effort to do well. So it's not for if that's not you, then I can't help you. Like that, there's a larger problem of you just not wanting to learn or work hard. So that's the first thing that I would say. If you're in high school or you're in middle school, or even if like you're like well into your 20s, there's still an opportunity to go to college. Go to college, because college will also open your eyes to new professions that you might not have considered before. Because colleges are trying to get you employed. Because it's good for colleges. If a college can tell people who aren't students yet that, we get all of our students employed in jobs that pay X, Y, and Z, more people are wanting to go to that college. So everybody's marching towards the same direction. So that's my first recommendation, advice to people. I would say go to college. My second recommendation, I would say don't neglect like the Muslim community. Don't think that, I'm going out to do my own thing. I'm going to go explore the world, see what's out there, blah, blah, blah. Like, stay close to your Muslim community, because in the event where you fail or you fall flat on your face, you don't want to be a stranger to the very community that raised you.
No, you said it best.
And so many people here are willing and could help you in those times of despair and those rough patches. So don't abandon your Muslim community. Stay close to them. If you want to change your Muslim community, I don't think people talk about this enough. If you want to move to a different state and join a new masjid, feel free to do that.
Still don't forget about you.
Yeah, like don't forget. Don't, like, if you see them, don't be like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah,
right. They're not your enemy. but feel free to try out different Muslim communities. That's another one. And then I'll say, if you're not the smartest person in the room, the next best thing is to be the hardest working person in the room, and working hard.
And I could say I noticed about you, you hard working, and it seems like you got a lot of things going. But every time I go to the meat market, I see you working, hours and everything.
Yeah,
you probably don't even need to do that, but you still go and put in the hours and everything like that. That drive, I believe, is probably gonna be the key to success. Like having a strong drive or something, like that.
Yep.
MashaAllah, man, I bless you.
Ameen. Likewise.
Anything like that.
Ameen.
Anything you want to cover that I didn't mention or anything like that?
No. I mean, I think what you're doing here is really cool. I don't think anybody in our community at all has the ambition to do something like this. And everybody, what I love about like content creation, and I love about like starting anything, people expect on day one, like, oh, I'm gonna get 1 million views, blah blah blah. Every single person that did something like this or did anything started off with 1 view, started off with $1.
Yeah.
But what separated them from the people who gave up are that they just went about it and did it consistently.
No.
They just did it over and over and over again. And they specifically tried to look for things that worked. If they saw something didn't work, they scrapped it quickly and they tried something new. So they were constantly iterating. But even, I mean, you guys can't see the setup, but this is like a proper setup.
No.
So many people are not willing to go to this length. So many people will pull up to you with a phone microphone and ask you for your comments or your thoughts on stuff. But this is a testament to you putting your best foot forward and wanting to make something work. Like, you're doing all the right things to make something work. And inshallah, it works out. Inshallah, it continues working out. But it's inspiring to see other people try and make it and try and do their thing.
Yeah, it's definitely Jazakallah khairan. That's one thing I wanted to do. Like you said, you're not gonna see much people in our community doing this particular. You see a lot of people in the UK, sometimes Canada, like all the big podcasts, Muslim podcasts you see is probably in the UK. I'm trying to hide that right here in the East Coast and in America.
Yep.
So inshallah, the journey continues, the grind continues.
Inshallah.
You came to see the grind. We starting ground up and everything.
Yeah.
Inshallah. You're probably going to see me in the studio.
Inshallah, yeah.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
So we're going to end it here. Jazakallah khairan. Continue to subscribe, like, comment, support. Any where we followers can follow you.
Yeah.
Where they can follow you.
I feel like I'm a salesman at heart. I should have this bone in my body, but I can never get myself to like promo myself. If you want halal meat, pull up to East Orange.
That's the best halal meat.
Yeah, you'll find us somehow.
That's facts. Jazakallah khairan. Very hard jokes for coming, man. Appreciate that. I'll get your funny up, get your Dean up. The Worldly Life Podcast is back. Bismillah.